Hey, it's Explore the Unusual, and welcome to the Christmas video. You know, whenever it's like time for the holidays, not just Christmas, any holiday, you know, and you decide to go out in the middle of the woods, because I'm totally in the middle of the woods right now, guys. So yeah, it's December, you know, happiest time of the year. So what better time to talk about creepypastas? A creepypasta is a horror-themed story, video, image, gets widespread across the internet. Urban legends for the internet age, essentially. But unlike most urban legends, these are usually created by edgy teenagers. I mean, we don't know for sure that the skinwalker wasn't an invention by like a Navajo teenager who was really mad at their parents. No way to know. Sometimes they're inspired by existing urban legends, sometimes they're based on sometimes they're inspired by pop culture. Sometimes a photo shows up and it's really scary, so somebody writes a story about it. They come in all shapes and sizes and formats. Usually can be achieved by drawing black and red bloody eyes on a character, which is how I got the thumbnail. Someone's gonna think I did that to be cool and not as an obvious joke, but wouldn't be the first time that's happened. Now, most of these were created in the late 2000s, but made their rounds in the early 2010s, which is where my experience for it comes in. Around 2013, 2014, I'd like to say, I got really into creepypasta. I would draw them a lot, I would watch videos like this. Yeah, I never got into Tumblr, but a lot of these little characters introduced me to aspects of Tumblr culture. A lot of them were Tumblr sexy men. I like to think I have a unique perspective on these characters, having previously myself been extremely cringe. Yeah, previously. I know, you can hold the comments, I know. While all cringe fandoms come from like humble origins, I think because all of these came from individual creators, the cringe scale goes up and down a lot. So we're gonna clear some things up about some of these characters, or just introduce them to people who are unfamiliar and want to get into the game really late. To be fair, most people who are into this now are ironic about it. At least I'm pretty sure. They're at the level of like mainstream Halloween costumes now. So like the niche internet fan base aspect of it has really died down. Hopefully I don't upset anyone with my takes on this, because I am gonna be very brutally real with my opinions. I think, you know, I will just be honest on how I view these stories and these characters in retrospect, because a lot of them were kind of never good, to be honest. So we'll break down the origins of the characters, the stories themselves, the impact, all of that. Hopefully by the end of the video, you're more educated and you can use it in your everyday life.
It's Slenderman! Kill yourself!
So Slenderman is arguably the most famous one of these characters. Not the earliest, but I think probably the one that blew up the earliest. Definitely the one that's most prominent in pop culture. And he was also in his very own movie, which was so bad that I think it killed this genre indefinitely. So the Slenderman is a tall, thin man with a pale, featureless face. Sometimes he has tentacles, he wears a black suit, and he lurks around the woods and kills children. He was created in June 2009 on the Something Awful forum by user Eric Knudsen under the pseudonym Victor Surge as a part of a Photoshop contest, and he is cited as being inspired by the works of H.P. Lovecraft. Also, to clear this up, because I wasn't even sure before doing the research on it, the video game came after the initial character. The photography edits you commonly see came first. There's a little bit of confusion on that topic, like, do we refer to Slenderman as a video game character or as a creepypasta character? Which was first? Now you know. This is also where the concept of the 8 pages originates. Basically every iteration of the Slenderman character uses some different lore because there was nothing definitive. It's whatever the current creator intends it to be, basically. In its lore, the creature has existed since very olden times, often displayed in folklore and even cave drawings, as well as people making ties to real-life folklore that include similar stories. But then again, the character is more or less based on like these old urban legends, so kind of works out. He also has many cousins and counterparts and stuff, like Trenderman, Splenderman, Offenderman, likes Menderman. The character mainly exists in photography, which makes it pretty vague in connection to all these other characters with their long stories. No one's really entirely sure what he does. But I think the point of the character is the mysterious aspect to it, you know? If Slenderman is nothing, then he could be literally anything.
My name is Jeff.
Jeff the Killer was created for a contest on a website I'm not allowed to say the name of. The origins of the character come from altering a photo of a young girl that she posted of herself, which is kind of mean when you think about it. The original photo popped up a few years ago. Following the posting of the image, a backstory was written for the character back in 2011. This one used to be my favorite of them, but I've kind of come to realize it's really, really stupid. 13-year-old Jeff moved to a new town with his younger brother. They got confronted by a trio of bullies. Jeff went goblin mode on them, and his brother got blamed for it and then got arrested. The bullies later confronted Jeff. He killed one of them. During this scuffle, he got bleach poured on him and got lit on fire. And then while in the hospital, he went really crazy and carved a smile onto his face and cut off his eyelids so he couldn't sleep. Then he murdered his entire family and went on a cross-country killing spree. So it's a great story, guys. I then found out that my opinion on it was shared with a lot of people. The original story was really panned and was eventually banned from the Creepypasta website. And in 2014, they held a competition to create a new origin story. In 2015, we got the retcon version, which is now the official origin story. It's mostly similar. The thing about these posts is that they were always early fanfiction levels of literature. So the 2015 revamp was made to resemble an actual piece of writing more than just a jumbled shitpost. Most important change is that he has now been aged up to 15, which is just a little bit more believable than a 13-year-old running around stabbing people in their sleep. Jeff the Killer is probably one of the most common examples of these characters being interpreted as Tumblr sexy men. Like, they're just silly little guys who run around and dance and stuff. And in the spirit of being honest, as my past as a creepypasta kid, I did dress up as Jeff the Killer for Halloween one year. Let's move past it.
Burn.
Ben Drowned is a series of stories and accompanying ARG videos, which are based on the game Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. So I think Ben Drowned might be the best made of these, to be honest. All the other ones kind of consist of blurry images and screenshots and poorly written stories. This one consists of several blog entries accompanied by pretty good altered gameplay footage, at least for their time, you know. They used some pretty good mods to create like the horror effects in it. And I really love Majora's Mask, So Ben Drowned is portrayed as the statue of young Link that's created when playing the Elegy of Emptiness. As the story goes, the poster Deducible, a college sophomore recently given a used N64, goes to a garage sale and is given a copy of Majora's Mask by a shady guy. He loads up the game and it has a save file belonging to someone named Ben, which he goes right ahead and deletes because that's what you do with every used game you get, obviously. As he plays the game, he notices some strange occurrences that are only made possible through ROM hacking. It is slowly revealed that the copy was owned by the titular Ben Drowned, who drowned, I guess. So it goes on for a while, creepy stuff happens in the game. Eventually, Ben's spirit seems to escape and upload himself to the internet and go on all sorts of wacky adventures. I think the original base story is really good, and then it kind of goes off the rails. A lot of these do that, but I would recommend checking it out. I think there are a few ARGs you could play. I'll link to some interesting content on it down below for ones I think people would be interested in doing some further research on.
What's a rake?
The Rake is one I never really understood the popularity of. I read it as a kid, and I did not get the appeal. I think it comes across like any other 2010s horror story, which is weird because it came out in 2005. So it is the oldest one on this list technically. But you know, it's part of the history, it's popular, I'll discuss it. Like a few other early creepypastas, this came from a website I'm not allowed to say the name of. YouTube doesn't like it being mentioned. So the story is a collection of recollected tales of people encountering the titular Rake, which is this skinless skeletal creature who kind of lives out in an unknown location doing things. I guess we can assume he just kind of voyages across the continental United States. Anyways, anyone who sees it is filled with intense feelings of dread, and they eventually die. Maybe he gets them with his gross little fingers. There is no account of what it is, where it came from, what it wants. So this one might just be my least favorite because it doesn't have much personality. But like in a crowd that includes like Ben Drowned and Candle Cove, this one just like doesn't have enough to stand out to me. So sorry to all the Rake fans out there. It's not for me.
I'm the eye hole man.
Coming once again from your favorite website back in the year 2010, Eyeless Jack is one of the more straightforward stories. It tells of a guy named Mitch.
His name's Mitch?
and his brother Edwin moving into a new house. They find that this guy with the blue mask and sunken eyes keeps breaking into their house at night, because he goes to the hospital and he has a lot of physical damage. Like, the doctor casually tells Mitch that his kidney is missing. Eventually, Mitch and his brother are attacked. Mitch runs away from the house, trips in the woods, ends up in the hospital when he finds out his brother has been murdered. He goes back to the house and his brother's body is still there for some reason. And next to him is Mitch's own kidney with a little bite taken out of it. I'm just sitting here trying to figure out why his brother's body was still there. Like, the authorities would need to come, find his body, declare him dead, and then just go home and leave the body there. In the original story, Eyeless Jack is a generic serial killer, but was later given his own backstory. So Jack is a lonely college student who makes a new group of friends that turn out to be a cult of devil worshippers who sacrifice him by pouring tar into his eyes. Then he gets possessed, comes back to life, kills the entire cult, becomes a serial killer. There's no explanation as to why he can see now, but you know, it's demons and stuff, just go with it. The scariest thing of all, though, is the fact that he's Canadian. Eyeless Jack is very prominent in the Tumblr side of the fandom. Something I think is really interesting is that the original artist revealed herself on Twitter a few years ago and unveiled the original unseen artwork of the character.
What a sad little life, Jane.
Jane the Killer is a spin-off to Jeff the Killer, one of many. It's like him, but she's a girl boss. Jane was having a great life, loving everything in it, till Jeff killed her parents. So the next obvious step is becoming a government agent and a test subject for something called liquid hate. This caused her appearance to change and turned her into a hyperactive serial killer. And now she's set out to kill Jeff. In some versions, it said that she kills people to save them from being killed by Jeff. The most I knew about her growing up is that she was shipped with Jeff the Killer a lot, which is kind of funny. Like, this guy killed her parents, and also I learned recently that like she has a wife in canon and stuff, so you know, straight people shipping rarely makes sense. I've noticed from people I've talked to while writing this video that Jane the Killer has her own dedicated fandom. Might have something to do with her being one of the few female characters or being more of an anti-hero, but she's got a pretty strong fandom out there. For a bit of fun trivia, there's technically two versions of the character. Jane Arkansas, not spelled like the state, is the more popular version of the character, but was created independently from the original creator. Jane Todd Richardson, created by the writer Fear of a Black Wolf, was the one that came beforehand. And they're kind of acknowledged as separate characters, which is really confusing, but like none of these really make that much sense with their continuity.
Destruction of property, vandalism, disorderly conduct.
So we're gonna avoid discussing the backstory because of the recent actions of the creator of the character, which you can look into that yourself. Sonic.exe tells the story of a guy who was given a hacked copy of, well, it's a Sonic game. It has aspects of the first three and also Sonic and Knuckles kind of thrown together, so maybe it's like a collection title. So anyways, this guy loves Sonic so much that he just can't help but play it, even though his friend Kyle, who gave it to him, kind of told him that the game made him go insane, but he just gotta have his Sonic, man. His friend told him to go destroy it, but dude has just got to go fast. He loads it up, there's blood everywhere, the copyright date is 666. He starts the game off, he's playing as Tails, going through Hill Zone. Nope, no green, just Hill Zone. Also, all the animals are dead, and eventually the music cuts out, and Tails runs into Sonic, but he's a little creepy, as in he's got bloody eyes, and he starts chasing Tails. Then the game switches over to Knuckles. The same thing happens. Sonic then proceeds to go around killing random characters, declares himself God. The main character finally stops playing the game, I don't know why he didn't earlier, only to realize Sonic.exe has made his way into the real world in the form of a plushie, and then the story ends. It's kind of just a dollar store Ben Drown, to be honest. Also, I'm not getting into all the backstory about the Cataclysm stuff and like this like deity possessing this Sonic game because he's a huge Sonic fanboy. You can read the wiki, I'm just giving you the basics. All of that is not the basics. I'm just like not qualified to teach about that. Clockwork! Hey, it's one I never knew about, that's wild. Clockwork is a serial killer. Who would have guessed? Before she was Clockwork, she was Natalie. She was abused in like every way possible by every member of her family. Her boyfriend broke up with her, citing his reason as she's a little creepy. She ends up giving herself a scary mouth, then she goes to a therapist, and the therapist does surgery on her. Surgery goes wrong, she looks so different that she goes insane. Then she rips out one of her eyes, replaces it with a watch, and dubs herself Clockwork. Oh, and she kills her entire family. That's a running theme in these, by the way. The Clockwork story was added to the Creepypasta wiki in 2013, but was quickly taken down, and here's why. Apparently, people did not like this story very much at all, which I was unaware of. One of the first ones with a hugely negative reception. Cited mostly for the main character coming across as a Jane the Killer ripoff and also a Mary Sue. Also a lot of grammatical errors, which is funny because that's in literally all of these. Like, I read so many of these to prepare for this video and all of them had like spelling and grammatical errors, but go off, I guess. It is admittedly riddled with signs of being written by an edgy teenager as a bit of a self-insert, so you know, those aspects I can understand the disdain for. I'd always heard about Ticci Toby, but never really understood what the story was about. I've done my research now, so I can explain. The story was created by Wade Castaway. I can't seem to find a release date on it. Young Toby grew up with many unnamed mental disorders, some of which even had names. His name comes from having Tourette's syndrome and being bullied because of it, earning his nickname. He got homeschooled, and of course, while being homeschooled, he had abusive parents. But then, in a shocking crossover, he was met by Slenderman, who started haunting him, just to be a little goofster, I guess. This leads to him being influenced to kill his father, and then he sets his entire neighborhood on fire. But Slenderman saves him, and he becomes a follower. The character is best known for being really popular in cosplay, which kind of contributes to my personal theory about him being the least scary creepypasta, because like, if a 5'6" twink ran up on me, I wouldn't be frightened in the slightest. Funny enough, it is no longer considered a part of the major creepypasta ensemble. The creator would remove the character himself after some issues with the fan base, but it remains one of the poster children of the genre.
How come my dad died from a Herobrine overdose?
I think Herobrine is probably the longest persisting mystery in Minecraft, going back to the game's like early beta stages. 2010 to be exact. Herobrine would originate in a screenshot from an early version of the game, and then several videos which would later go on to be debunked, such as the infamous door video. So Herobrine is the rumored dead brother of Minecraft creator Notch, who entered Minecraft and now kind of haunts the game, taking the form of the default skin Steve but with whited out eyes. It's really easy to create, you had to change 2 pixels. Herobrine sightings were a huge trend for a while, with people forging, sharing videos and photos of them spotting Herobrine out in the wild. Now, what does he actually do? Nobody knows. There are associated things like random like structures appearing and trees having all their leaves removed. It's like if your game was haunted by an 8-year-old who just learned what griefing was. It's among the few fanfiction type creepypastas to be acknowledged by the creators. For several years, the patch notes to every Minecraft update would end with the line "remove Herobrine," until a few years ago, they stopped. And then they continued, I think. It was a big thing at the time.
Squidward, tortellini!
So I'm going to refer to this one as Red Mist, as that is the name given to the updated version of the story, and YouTube is sensitive about certain words, and I would rather do this than self-censor myself the entire time. This tells the story of a young intern at Nickelodeon who views an early copy of the SpongeBob Season 4 premiere, the actual episode being Fear of a Krabby Patty, but instead they watch Red Mist. So the premise of it is that Squidward is getting ready to do like a big performance, but he goes on stage and he does so bad that the crowd boos him off and he is extremely depressed. Cuts to video of him crying in his bedroom that slowly becomes distorted, and it's implied what he does. Some versions it's shown what he does. It's extremely simple, but what I find interesting is how big this one got to the point where it was incorporated into the show. In season 12, the episode SpongeBob in Random Land features Squidward opening a door while in a fantasy land revealing the titular image from the story. Squidward slams the door out of fear, and in later reruns, this scene was removed and replaced with him finding a baby version of himself, which might be a little bit creepier. In the second of the female Jeff the Killer spin-off subgenre, we get Nina, who is 100% a self-insert. Created in 2011 by this username, it would also be recently revamped, much like its inspiration. So, Nina was a fangirl of Jeff the Killer, who never shut up about him, especially to her brother Chris, who she called Prince. So she got bullied for this, obviously. One time she almost killed her bullies and then retreated to a Jeff the Killer shrine which even the Randy Marsh girl would call too much. So the bullies kidnap her brother and rough him up a bit. She starts flipping out. Meanwhile, an anonymous writer is sending her love letters. Anyways, Claudia has a gun now, but Nina is doing Neo bullet time for some reason. She hides in a bathroom, but being taunted over her brother's injuries and stuff causes her to freak out, go goblin mode, kill the bullies. At this moment, she decides to make herself look like Jeff the Killer, gets sent to an asylum, breaks out, kills her whole family. You know the routine.
You are without doubt the worst pirate I've ever heard of.
Candle Cove is never one I really paid attention to in my youth, but I have come to really appreciate. Published in 2009 by author and cartoonist Chris Straub, the story documents an internet forum's discussion of an old children's TV show called Candle Cove. I'm really into lost media, so this is right up my alley. So, on a fictional thread on a site called Net Nostalgia Forums, several users discuss a children's TV show they all grew up watching, specifically growing up in the Huntington-Ashford area in the 1970s, so probably public access. And if you know anything about public access TV shows, there's always a really weird one in the bunch. The show follows a girl named Janice who has adventures and talks to pirate puppets. As they discuss it further, they remember more and more disturbing details about the show, like a puppet who wears human skin, and an episode that consisted entirely of the characters screaming, concluding with one of the users mentioning that when they asked their mother about the show, she responded by saying that he would just be watching 30 minutes of dead air static every day. This is commonly agreed upon to be one of the best structured and best written creepypastas, and even led to an adaptation that wasn't like the Slenderman movie. I've yet to watch, but the 2017 sci-fi series Channel Zero is an adaptation of the story. The first season is at least, being subtitled Candle Cove. It has really favorable reviews and was even nominated for several awards, including 2 Saturns and 4 Fangoria chainsaws. Now, if you're wondering, Ty, what about Evil Josh, my favorite creepypasta, or something like that, I need content for a sequel. Video ideas don't come easy, so I wanted to leave the door open for a sequel. But because this video may be really short and I want to leave everyone with a really nice Christmas gift, I decided to write my own creepypasta. I've become so knowledgeable about the tropes and cliches of these stories. I have crafted the perfect creepypasta, and then I adapted it into a short film with really dramatic editing. This is me signing off and wishing you all a happy holidays. It all began one cold winter afternoon. I was walking down a creepy alley as I usually am when suddenly I encountered something rather strange. A tape left on the ground. Now my first thought was, VCR. So I threw it away. But then a few steps later I found a CD. I was able to play that. So I took it home. So I got all ready to watch it, placed it into my DVD player or video game console or whatever is more believable, and then my narration stopped for the remainder of the story. Hi everyone, welcome back to Baking with Billy. As always, I'm your host. On today's show, I will teach you how to prepare my all-time favorite dish, Billy's Beautifully Breadful Bowl. Great name. Now this is going to be fun for you and me. Now what you're going to need is some bread and a lighter. Now don't make any mistakes. This is going to get very dangerous. Aw, darn. 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 Don't make fun of my show. This is gonna get very dangerous for you. Now I want to tell you all how important this show is to me. When I was a young boy, I was a very lonely, abused, bullied boy. From the ages of 12 to 23. Now I would get bullied at school every day. They'd call me boy, little boy, baking bully boy. Oh, that's not so bad. And then my parents would call me a little bitch. Oh. Every morning, my father would wake me up by throwing eggs at me. And every night he'd tuck me in by throwing eggs at me. So obviously, one day, I got a frying pan and I killed my bullies, and then I killed my parents, and then I went to jail and started a cooking show. Okay, I'm gonna turn this off now. Aw, darn. Welcome back to the show. And that's how you prepare.